I want to share my testimony of the miracle that Jesus put into my life and what changed me. I always believed in Jesus, but I never really had a miracle or been touched until Labor Day in the year 2020. I got up and my husband was already in the kitchen and he was making coffee, and I couldn't understand why he didn't take the dogs out. So I thought, okay, I guess I'll take them out so they don't end up peeing and pooping all over the house. And when I was outside with the dogs, I heard the garage door open, and I heard my husband Sean in the garage messing around. And when I went and looked in the garage, he was in there barefoot with no shirt on, which he would never be in the garage barefoot because he works on cars. And he had no shirt on. He's self-conscious about having a shirt on and whatnot. So he always had a shirt on. Anyways, when he came into the house, I asked him, "What were you doing in the garage?" And he said, you know. And I said, "No, I don't know." And he says, "I was working on the video." And we don't have a video in the garage. He was been working on a tractor. And I said, "Video?" And he says, "Yeah, the video." And so I said, "Show me." And so he goes outside and he points right at the tractor he's working at, and he said, "Video." And he couldn't talk. He couldn't remember that was a tractor. He then went in the house and tried to unlock his phone, and he couldn't remember how to unlock his phone or how his phone works. And then he looked over at me like he had no idea who I am. He didn't know who our 9-year-old son was. And he just grabbed his head and he said he was going in there to lay down. And I didn't really think nothing of it, but the dogs were acting really funny. And so I took him to the emergency room, which took a while because he's a guy who never wants to go to the doctor. And I told him, if you didn't allow me to take you, then I was going to call an ambulance. So he finally cooperated, and I got him into the hospital, and they told me that he has a bleed on his brain. And I just want to let you know that at that time he was perfectly healthy, had no health issues, and he was only 45. And one minute he's making coffee, the next minute he don't even know who I am or where he's at. So they told me that he had a bleed on his brain, and that they were going to have to airlift him to the next state in Wisconsin, and that this could be life-threatening. So they airlifted him, and because of COVID, they wouldn't let me stay. So, they admitted him and did all that, and he was at UW Hospital in Madison. And the next day when I came back, he was on oxygen, and I can hear him breathing all the way from the hallway. And I couldn't understand, if they knew that he had a brain bleed, why are they waiting so long? But apparently they had to wait to see if it was going to stop, because they couldn't, they just don't want to go in there. They don't know where the bleed is coming from exactly. They had an idea after doing the MRI. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cry, but it's so... Anyway, so they ended up having to put a feeding tube in him. And, just imagine your loved ones fine one minute and the next minute they're fighting for their life. And they told me that they were going to probably have to drill inside his head, to stop the bleeding. And I prayed, and his dad prayed, and he was in there for 6 weeks in the ICU. Anyways, so they went in and they were going to put some glue. He had a bunch of vessels here and a tiny vessel here, blue. And that's where the bleeding came from. And so they went in and they glued it shut, and they told me that the bleeding has gone down. And I know it was from all these prayers. And as he was in the hospital, his dad, he's been sick for a while, or I don't know, he had a lot of issues that he didn't tell us. I had no idea he was that sick, and he went to God and he told him to take him instead of his son. And he, gave his son for his life, as, anyways. So my husband, Sean, all of a sudden, it's been, about 6 weeks. They went in and they checked and did the procedure, and the blood was gone. They didn't have to drill his head. They went up through his leg with a microscope. And the blood just stopped. It stopped bleeding. And they told me that he would have brain damage. And, he's never going to be able to work again. My husband is a truck driver. He has a CDL, and he works for a company in our town, and he delivers, drywall. And they told me that he would never drive again, and he may not remember who I am or who my son is. And as the bleeding went down, his memory started to come back, and he started to remember who I was, and he remembered that we had 3 children, and one of them was a 9-year-old, and he remembered his dog, and he just he's not paralyzed. He doesn't have any issues or anything. And I believe that his dad gave his life for him, and God has touched us. And today he's here with us. Dad, can you wave?
How's it going?
And this is my husband, Sean. And anyways, what they said that he had was an AVM, which is some sort of stroke, which where the blood vessels was surrounded by so much blood, and since the compression of all the blood was on his brain for so long, they said that he would have brain damage. And 3 months after that, he went back to work. He remembered how to drive, and he has memories of our children and our children's lives. And I believe that God healed him, and even though that his dad took his place, the Lord gave him his memories back. So yeah, he don't have his dad, but at least he has his memories. And I just want to share my testimony. I know that a lot of people don't believe in God, and they need to have proof that he's around, and he's around and he hears us. And we weren't church-going people at all, We lived a life. We fought and argued and treated each other like crap, and we treated other people like crap too. So he seeks out sinners, and he has changed my life, and he's changed my husband's life. And I just wanted to share my testimony of how he blessed us in our life. And I know Sean really don't want me talking about it because he feels stupid sometimes because he can't think of certain words. But this is him driving, and he's back to work, and it's all because of God and Jesus. And for all those people that I've met recently who's had a near-death experience, and they don't know why they're still alive and why God spared them. You know why God spared you? Because he loved you. And he wants you to show you a miracle so you and your family will believe. Because us as human beings, we don't believe unless we see it to our face. Well, this is right here in the face of a guy who had a bleed on his brain, and they told me that he was either going to die or be a vegetable for the rest of his life. And he's here, and he's healed, and the blood's gone, and he has his life back, and he has no limitations. He's not paralyzed. He gets up and goes to work every day and lives his life. So I just, hopefully if you have an AVM, this will give you hope that you can be healed by God, and don't lose faith. Do you want to say anything?